Hello my friends, welcome today to another Flaming Dice Reviews video review. Today we're going to be taking a look at Dixit. You may notice that I am sitting alone. My two sidekicks are not with me today. So it's just me, Matt. Dixit, of course, has been featured on Tabletop and it's probably been reviewed a million times by a million other reviewers. However, because I'm interested in showing the artwork of the cards in a separate video that's going to be a card artwork display video, I did want to just give a quick review of the game in case anybody's fuzzy on the reviews. Absolutely wonderful game. We're going to take a look at what's inside right now. Included in the Dixit base game is a player board which keeps track of the player's scores, and then a set of voting tokens and a matching color bunny that goes on the scoring track. That's 6 sets of those, one for each player in 6 different colors. Also included in the game is wonderfully illustrated cards seen around the edge of the video here. Each one is very whimsical, just fantastic. It really does evoke different sensations and feelings in everybody that looks at them, which lends a lot of replayability to Dixit. Now we're going to be taking a look at how the turns, how they unfold. At the beginning of the game, players are dealt 6 cards. Each turn, a player will play 1 card. Now, every player gets to contribute 1 card to the pool every turn, but only one player is the active player. The active player takes a look at his 6 cards and chooses one that he thinks he can describe vaguely to his opponents. For example, he may choose the mime in the spotlight, and he may give a phrase that describes it a little bit, but not completely. The goal of the game is to have at least one person be able to recognize your card from the 4 submitted, but not have everybody pick your card. So you can't be too obvious. If everyone picks your card because you said mime in a spotlight, then you get no points. But if you said something like, let's see, what would be a good description for the mime in the spotlight? Don't make light of this situation. Well, is it because the clown or mime looks sad? Don't make light of this situation? Or is it because he's standing in a spotlight? Nobody's going to know when they see the card. I think that's vague enough. So let's take a look at a turn using that example. Now when the active player says don't make light of the situation as his clue, he will play his card face down. Now I'm going to play them face up just for the purposes of this video. He's going to play his card face down. The other players want to not only guess the active player's card, but they want to trick the other players into guessing their card. If other players guess their card, then they get points. So for example, player 1 is the active player. He makes the phrase and says don't make light of the situation and plays this mime card face down. Player 2 chooses to focus on the don't make light of a situation common saying, as in this is a serious situation, and he plays face down also the card of the deer mounted on the wall who is crying. The third player focuses on a similar theme and plays from his hand of 6 cards 2 children walking through a dark building with a shadow of a werewolf behind them. That sounds like a serious situation that you definitely shouldn't make light of. The other person, the 4th player, takes things a little bit more literal and chooses to focus on the light portion of the clue. So these would be the 4 players' submissions. And again, these would be done in secret and face down. These cards would be shuffled and then laid out along the player board like so. Then players would get to vote on them, and we'll take a look at that next. Now let's take a look at the voting portion of the turn. This is where the players, other than the active player, get to vote on which card they think the active player played. So, in this example, player 1, which is the active player, is the blue player, the blue bunny. Player 2 is the green player, player 3 is the red player, and player 4 is the yellow player. Now, the second player, or the green player, thinks that the werewolf picture is the one that the active player played. So he plays his vote face down at first, but it's going to be face up for the purposes of this video. Player 3, the red player, thinks that the active player was being very literal with the light portion of his clue and chooses card 1. Player 4, the yellow player, thinks that the mime in the spotlight, which is the correct card, was the card that the active player played and chooses card 2, which again is the correct card. Now in this scenario, one player has chosen correctly. Thus, the active player gets 3 points and the player who chose correctly gets 3 points. Player 3, the red player, gets no points because they chose incorrectly. Same for player 2, the green player. Now, the players who played the first card here in the lineup and the fourth card, they each get points because they tricked the other players into picking the wrong cards. So that's how you get points when you're not the active player. Or that's another way to get points when you're not the active player. So in this scenario, the active player would get 3 points. The yellow player would get 3 points as well. The green player and the red player would get no points. And the 2 players who played the cards that tricked the other players would each get 1 point. Alternatively, if the second player, the green player, had chosen the fourth card, and if the third player, the red player, had chosen the first card, and the yellow player had also chosen either the third or the fourth card, that means that the active player was too vague. No one chose his card, thus he gets no points. If no one chooses the active player's card, then all the other players get 2 points. And again, the players who were able to trick the other players into playing on their cards each get 1 point. We're going to take a look at one more example. In this next example, let's say that the active player had not gone with his clue that we've been working with, that don't make light of a situation. Let's say that instead he had said, "That's me in the corner." Popular lyrics from the 90s song by REM, Losing My Religion. So everybody knows that song, or a lot of players know that song. Let's say everyone at the table knew that song. They knew that the next line was, "That's me in the spotlight." So every player played their votes face down and then revealed them. And every player voted for the correct card. In that scenario, since everyone found the active player's card, the active player gets no points and all the other players get 2 points. That's the last example that we're going to look at. Now let's go to our final thoughts and let me tell you what I think of the game. Before we go to the final thoughts, just like to explain the scoring system and the game as a whole, just in case it was unclear at the beginning. Rounds proceed in the way that we just saw, where each player draws up to 6 cards. The active player tries to describe the card well enough that somebody gets it, but not everybody gets it. Players take turns being the active player, and points are awarded at the end of each round. Play proceeds until one of the little bunnies has proceeded around the scoring track and gets to 30 points. Now let's take a look at my final thoughts and the Flaming Dice Review's score for Dixit. Now that we've seen what's inside of the game and how the game plays, let's talk about what I like and don't like about it. Actually, let's start with what I don't like. Almost nothing. I absolutely love this game. It's very easy to get people to play it, even people who aren't serious gamers. The artwork is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there's no denying that. I don't think anybody could argue that the artwork in Dixit isn't just fantastic. My kids love it. Everybody I've played it with loves it. I love it. I ran it through the Flaming Dice Reviews scoring system, which scores a game on 8 categories, including accessibility, artwork, fun, replayability. It received a 92 out of 100, which is basically, from all intents and purposes, editor's choice. Dixit, wonderful game. If you have kids, you want to encourage critical thinking, want to encourage imagination, I highly recommend purchasing Dixit. Thank you for watching, and please remember to subscribe and like. Thank you so much. Have a great day.